Hey there, nerds. Jimmy Palmquist here, and as always, we've got Jason Applegate
Hey guys, how's it going?
for Two Nerdy Dads. What's going on?
Hey, not much, man. It's been a long time, a long time.
It has been a while, and I think people are fans who have families, especially children, can understand that.
Yeah.
Maybe the others can't. I don't know, but yeah, I just know it's been crazy out here in Vegas. How about you?
Same. It's just like you just get so busy between the stuff that you do, and then the stuff that your kids are involved in and everything else. And it just was like a night would work for me, it wouldn't work for you, and a night would work for you and wouldn't work for me, and just all over the place. So, but here we are. We've got one going and lots to talk about. We'll whip through it as quick as we can and get this show on the road.
Perfect. So what do we have first?
Well, let's talk about Motor City Comic Con, which was just recent, a couple of weekends ago. Had a great time, lots of fun, as they always are. Was super, super excited to finally meet Adam West, who is my favorite Batman, which is really funny to say because if you'd have asked me in 1992 who my favorite Batman was, it would not have been Adam West. In fact, I would have scoffed at the idea of the 60s Batman. But ever since, all of the dark stuff has come out, I've just really grown to appreciate the niche that Adam West's Batman filled, and what it meant, and it just how fun it is. And meeting him was fantastic. We waited in line for about an hour and a half until he got there. And then when he did, I was right on the edge, and he got off his little golf cart and was walking down the edge, and he goes, "Fist bump." So I just stuck my fist out, and he got a fist bump from Adam West. So that was pretty exciting. And then got up there and got him to sign a picture. Wanted him to personalize it with a quote from his show that was grammar related, since I'm an English teacher. He said, "Remember, Robin, grammar is essential."
Yeah,
I
no.
wanted him to write that, but unfortunately, because of the length of the line and that they want to get people through quickly, he wasn't allowed to personalize things. And I really believe he would have otherwise. And he did say, "But I'll say it for you." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." And he did in his very Batman voice, and he sounded just like he did on the TV show. And said that. And then he was like, "Who did I say that to?" And on the show. And I was like, "Well, you said it to Robin." And he's like, "Oh, you've got to tell Burt Ward. When you go over to Burt Ward's line, tell him that I said that." So I was like, okay. So I did. Burt Ward, not as happy to be there. I just didn't get a sense. Like, I told him that, and he was just kind of like, okay. I was like, all right. But I don't blame him. I mean, honestly, when you look at it, it's I can understand why Adam West is more at peace with being, who he was, and took a lot of real pride in it. In fact, I remember in '89 when the Batman movies came out, he was kind of offended that they didn't ask him to play Batman. So, he kind of really prided himself on that role, which is great. So that was cool. And it was really cool because it was the last time that they're going to do this. It's the last time that they're going around and doing a tour. And I mean, how many of the actors from that era even are with us anymore? I know, the first Comic-Con, Motor City Comic-Con I went to, we were lucky enough to get Batgirl's autograph, and she just recently passed away.
Yeah, I think I usually only keep track of the cat women. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I know a bunch of them have passed away.
Yeah, I know. I think I want to say Julie Newmar's still with us. I'm pretty sure that she is. If it's not her, it's the other one. I wish I had all three of them. I'll have to look them up and we'll figure it out. But other than that, it was a lot of fun. The costumes were really good this year. Really good. Was very impressed with them. I don't know why this year more than others, but I was really, really impressed with the costumes from Saturday. The media guests that I did meet were fantastic. The interviews I got were great. They went really well. They were very friendly. I really enjoyed interviewing the comic book men from that show that's on AMC about Kevin Smith's comic book store. Those two guys, Michael and Ming, were great. They were just very down to earth, naturally charismatic. The interview went really well. They kind of just took it right over. It was great. But I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get more of those types of media guests. And it really was the media guests themselves just were not open to interviews from anyone that wasn't like, you know, News Channel 4, you know, it was on Fox or ABC or CBS or something like that. And so we really didn't even have access to anybody else, even though I asked and asked. And, you know, the people were great. The handlers were fantastic. The people that were running the, you know, the buffer between the media guests and the interviews were as fantastic. CKC agency was great, as they always have been. It just happened to be that there weren't as many that were open to it. And honestly, the media guests this year, there wasn't like 2 or 3 that I was just like, I really, really, really want to talk to these people. And I think I have a shot at doing it. Whereas there were in the past. No Lou Ferrigno, who's always good for an interview. And some of the others from our generation really weren't there. It was, you know, a lot more of the 90s kids stuff. Power Rangers, you know, Smallville, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And then, of course, the guys from Daredevil you're not going to get. The guys from The Walking Dead, they don't do, no matter if they were on for 3 episodes, they're not allowed to you know, talk about The Walking Dead and stuff. So it's they don't really do interviews either. So I don't know. As a whole, I'd say not the best Comic-Con that I've gone to at Motor City, but it was still a lot of fun. Family day was great too. So had a good time.
Very cool. And I think what you're talking about, I think we're seeing this trends of these regional Comic-Cons, and I'm not the only ones I'm not talking about are like San Diego, New York, maybe LA. They seem to be coming more of, let's get these celebrities some money, which I totally understand, I totally get, but let's get these celebrities money with signatures, pictures, buying their stuff, and getting them to actually necessarily talk to the fans or talk to media outlets like us. Not as important. Let's move through the line. And it's kind of disappointing because I've seen that trend go from being able to walk up to somebody and just chat and say, hey, you know, how's it going, that sort of thing, to get in line. Can't do anything else, get in line. And I understand both sides, but it's kind of disappointing being a fan seeing that.
Right. And with some of the stars, I mean, there's some of them where their line is running the whole time. And you just know, like the guy who, his name's escaping me, but the guy who plays the Punisher on the Daredevil series, like his line was nonstop. Like you just look at that and I know from years past, I'm not going to get an interview with him. I'm fine with that. I knew I wasn't going to get Adam West or Burt Ward or Billie Piper before she had to cancel. But I knew I wasn't going to get those guys, and I'm cool with that. And it was the other guests that, you know, the one that I did get with Ming and with Michael, you know, we waited and, you know, 4 or 5 people went through the line and then we did our interview and, you know, maybe 2 or 3 people lined up behind us, but their line was never like constantly churning. And so, that's usually what we've seen in the past is the guests that don't have a line of 20 people like consistently, you'll be able to fit in an interview if the media guest approves it. And so I think for whatever reason this year, the media guests weren't approving it for whatever reasons. Might have been that their agents don't want them to do it except for the bigger, you know, media platforms, or it might have been their own personal choice. I'm not sure which, but it was a bit of a bummer. Still got some great interviews. I guess I just really kicked butt last year because, I mean, we got 9 on the first day and got some really nice ones from, you know, Flash, from Arrow. They were great. Boba Fett from Star Wars, you know, just some really cool ones, and just didn't quite, you know, lightning didn't strike twice maybe this year. Maybe that's how I should view it.
Well, that brings up something I've been meaning to talk to you about, Jason. You're fired.
Ah, oh, dang it. Oh, what am I going to do? How am I going to pay the bills?
Actually, truth is, I keep trying to get Jason to go out to San Diego Comic-Con with us. But I know it's a haul from Michigan.
It is.
we finally got confirmation that we're
Oh, yay.
going this year again. So we're excited.
That's great. One of these years, Cade and I do want to end up going, and we'll just, you know, fly out there and stay, because it's kind of been on, I know it's on my bucket list. I'm sure he would love it too. I think he'll appreciate it more when he's a little bit older, and especially if he could do some of the stuff. And another thing I thought of that we should do next year at Motor City is do a new Nerd Locker Junior interview. I almost did one on Sunday, but it was, again, the media guest availability just wasn't there. But I think that would be kind of fun and cool to do too.
That'd be great. It's harder to say no to a kid.
It is, and usually the questions become a lot more fun. You know, I had my daughter writing her own questions. We were hoping to get the actress from Smallville, but she wasn't even there on Sunday, at least when we were looking. So anyway, let's move on to, like, oh my gosh, all the crazy stuff since we've last talked, which we were even trying to figure out. Had we talked about this? Because it seems so long, but let's kind of track backwards, if we will, and start with the biggest movie, comic book wise, that's come out, Captain America Civil War, or as I liked to call it, Black Panther Civil War, but, you know, that's just me. What did you think of it? Did you get a chance to see it yet?
I did finally get to see it this past weekend. Which is, again, part of the problem with family, just trying to coordinate things. I really wanted to see it opening weekend, but I didn't get a chance to. And my biggest disappointment is that hearing all the hype, seeing all the hype, and then finally getting to see it, I didn't think it lived up to the hype. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I would say it's middle of the road in the MCU. I do not hold it up to, like, Iron Man, Ant-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, the first Avengers. I think those are upper echelon. I think it's solidly in the middle. I do not put it with Avengers 2 or Iron Man 2. But there are just things where I thought, oh, this is dragging on. And don't get me wrong, because I thought, like, the airport battle, awesome. Just great fight scenes. Great to see that. Great to see Spider-Man. That was very cool. Love seeing Ant-Man. Paul Rudd, man, that dude is so cool.
So funny.
I love seeing him in everything he's doing with Marvel. It's just so great. But then there were other scenes where I'm just like, oh, God, are we going to get to a point here? Because it's dragging on. It's getting long. What I did really like was the ending, because we get to Siberia, and I don't want to give any spoilers or give it away, but as we get to Siberia and everybody seems to be friends again, I'm thinking in my head, I know I've seen more fighting in the trailer. So I'm not sure how they're going to be doing that. And when they answer that and things take another turn, it's like, holy crap. Okay, that was amazing. But overall, I was entertained, but I wasn't necessarily, like, let me put it this way. When I saw Deadpool, I didn't see it opening weekend. All the hype, everybody's loving it. I'm like, oh, man, I'm going to hate it now. Finally got to see it, and I'm like, oh, my God, this is just everybody said it was going to be. And I was just disappointed Civil War wasn't that good.
I gotcha. I can hear that. And I think it is due to the fact that you had to hear all the hype, you know, leading up to it. I would probably...
But a lot of people were putting it as, this is the best MCU movie they've made. And I'm like, what? I don't get that.
Yeah, no, I would say, for me, I love Guardians. I mean, that's my favorite of all of them. I think it's the best one out of all of them, honestly. And I would agree with you. I don't think it's... I would put it in the upper tier of them, but at the, you know, towards the bottom of it, I'd put it just even with the first Avengers. Like, maybe it's, you know, first Avengers is just slightly higher. But with the performances of, Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, and I loved this new actor as Spider-Man. I thought that he was perfect, because you have Tobey Maguire here on the spectrum, and you have Andrew Garfield here, and this new guy, like, struck the perfect medium between the two of them. You know, he got that witty banter, and he had this sort of, you know, Spider-Man's cool, Peter Parker's a dork, you know, and that's how it's been in the comics. And part of putting on the mask gave him the self-confidence to be a smart aleck and to, you know, talk trash and be cocky and so forth. And so I felt like this actor made that believable. You know, you saw him as kind of awkward and goofy and you know, silly, but then you saw him, you know, being self-confident and doing some pretty awesome things. And then Paul Rudd, my favorite part is when he's just fanboying Captain America, and then he delivers that other, like, over his shoulder, I think it's Scarlet Witch, he's like, oh, I know you too, you're great. And I just thought, you know what, he probably added that in. Paul Rudd probably literally just added that right into the shot because he was just being silly. And he was just a lot of fun. You know, again, I'm sure people have, I think they've actually spoiled it on their more recent commercials that, you know, when Ant-Man grows huge. I know the Lego set spoiled it actually for me. I knew it was coming. And so I was a little bit bummed that I knew it was coming, but it was still awesome to see Giant Man, you know, and when he grabs War Machine and he's all tiny guys big.
That's one of the things that freaked me out because I'd gone on IMDb and I saw there was a credit for Giant Man. I'm like, oh my God, are they going to kill Ant-Man / Giant Man, or is there another character coming in? Because in the Civil War comic books, and I know this is not the comic books, but I was like, they killed, what was it, Goliath?
Goliath, yes, I think that's right.
They killed Goliath by, well, not by accident, but the clone of Thor kills him, and I'm like, oh my God, are they going to kill Ant-Man? How?
Right.
That's unbelievable to me. I can't believe that. So finally seeing, I'm like, oh, okay, I see how that happened. I get it.
Yeah, that was really cool. Spider-Man was really cool. I agree with you. I think the ending was stellar. I was Team Iron Man all the way anyway because I just think Captain America's boring. I know you shake your head, but Captain America's so boring. And the other thing that bothers me about Captain America is that his bromance with Bucky, which is sort of endearing, but it gets to be like, dude, just it doesn't seem to fit. And I argue this with the comics too, is Captain America seems to be a lawful good character, like, you know, in that spectrum of you know, role-playing games. Lawful good meaning like letter of the law, like always follows what, you know, what is right, and morality plays in, but he's always going to be on the side of good. And not buck the system. But in both the comics and in this film, he does buck the system because he, you know, feels really for personal reasons in a way because of Bucky. And I just didn't relate to that for whatever reason. And I just also liked
because you relate with the guy who admitted he was wrong.
Oh, Iron Man, yeah. Yeah, but in the end, I don't see how you can't be on Iron Man's side. I mean, in the end, when he witnesses what he does, and the fight, you know, sparks anew, how can you not, like, you know, I could relate to him much more there. And while like he does need to be stopped because he's about to do something that I think Stark himself would regret if he follows through with it. You know, you empathize with him, I think, a little bit more. And I thought they did a good job of having you empathize with him at the beginning of the film too, when he has that encounter with the mother at, you know, waiting for the elevator about the, you know, the son. Yeah. Who she lost. And I guess I just always related a little bit more to that storyline. And part of me thought, you know what? Yeah, Bucky was under the control. Winter Soldier was under the control, you know, under this mind control, but he still did those things. Like, he should at least have to stand trial or something, you know, he has to answer for that in some kind of way. I don't know. So I enjoyed it. I'd put it on the same level as you. I really liked Iron Man's team better, except for Ant-Man, because I loved the Black Panther. I mean, that's why I called it Black Panther Civil War, because I felt like he stole the show. He was so cool, just amazingly cool, and I am so excited for the Black Panther movie. I thought the actor who played him was phenomenal. His suit was awesome. The action sequences with him were awesome when he's chasing him on the motorcycle. It just was... He was a lot of fun to watch.
I agree, and it's funny you're again siding with Cap because Black Panther came over.
I know he gives up vengeance. Yeah, he does.
I was just saying.
I suppose. I mean, it is his
Carbon
movie.
Cap supporter. That's what you are.
And the what I think's been really interesting is I mentioned the bromances. There've been a lot of like memes that are suggesting that Captain America and Bucky are like actually in love with each other, that they're at that it's a metaphor for homosexual relationship, which again, I always say, why does it have to in American society do two men who show affection towards each other and really care about each other, does that have to be labeled that way? I think in this case though, they're doing it more out of fun, like poking fun of Captain America a little bit with it, and just how dedicated he is to Bucky. But they're pretty amusing memes and so forth that are coming out of it.
They built it up too much for that to actually be true. Like obviously he's having a fling with the new Agent Carter. I forgot her
Which
name.
creeps a lot of people out because the whole aunt
He's
thing.
100 and she's like 30.
No, I mean, I don't blame him. I mean, he's not gonna go date the 100-year-old woman, but still, but like the niece.
They make a big reference that I think he's talking to Black Widow and saying how she, meaning June Carter or Agent Carter, that she was really the last reference he had to his old life,
right?
And she passed away. So I think that's another reason. Not only is Bucky his best friend, but it's really the last thing he has from the life he knew. Otherwise, he's just stuck in this world of millennials, and we know how awful that is.
True. I did enjoy some of the banter between Falcon and the Winter Soldier too. When like, can you move your seat up? No, and like, I hate you, and that was amusing as well.
I really enjoyed Falcon in this movie. I think he got overshadowed by like Ant-Man and Black Panther. But he was great. I really enjoyed him. He was a great. He was probably the perfect sidekick to Captain America, and I know in the comic books he took over for a while, and I wouldn't mind that at all. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, it seems like they could because Cap has ditched the shield, at the end, so it'll be interesting. I didn't know they were doing an Iron Man 4. I kind of thought that had run its course, but I just saw a poster for that.
I saw also that Chris Evans before this was talking about how he wanted to quit acting, go into directing, and just kind of do smaller things. But since then, I've heard, no, I wouldn't mind coming back. And I know that was the same case with, God, I keep saying Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
Oh, no, I'm done. I got my contract. I'm paid. No more movies. But it's like, I think these guys realize, one, this is an amazing paycheck. Two, they're really never going to have this kind of popularity again. You can only do it for so long before your body is just, nope, I can't be this physical.
Right.
And it's not that it's easy, but it's kind of more fun than a normal gig would be, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell that they really enjoy these movies and that they enjoy playing these characters, particularly Downey. So, why give it up when you can't, when you can keep making them, if there's more stories to tell. And that's kind of the thing. I had heard the rumor that the last Chris Evans was going to be the Avengers Infinity War one. And so there were, of course, rumors and guesses that Captain America would die in that movie, which would, I guess it would make sense that he would be a character.
Bring everybody back.
Yeah. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I liked it. I can hear what you're saying about like the hype was just a bit too much. But I still would put it in the upper tier of the Marvel movies.
I would also be disappointed if Iron Man 4, because I think they've set it up specifically with his conversations about Pepper. If they don't do Devil in a Bottle, I would be shocked and disappointed, because I think that would be an amazing storyline to tell.
Yeah, I don't know, because
Robert Downey Jr., but it should be amazing.
Yeah, that it would be cool. Yeah, I mean that's a great storyline. I just wonder if they kind of address the alcoholism thing, but I guess he could go back to it, right? I mean, he could just hit rock bottom after this, and really have a hard time. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. On the other spectrum, ever so briefly, Batman versus Superman. Just want to give my 2 cents. I know you haven't seen it yet and said you'd probably wait for digital
Well, that's
Blu-ray or whatever.
just to give you my quick. That's a telling for the movie. It came out, heard the hype. It reached a point where, can I see this or not? Civil War came out, rather see that. Not really worth going to theater to see it anymore. So I will wait.
Well, and you can't take small kids to it. You just can't. I mean, even though it's PG-13, it's pretty close, man, and it's violent, it's dark, and so I really wasn't comfortable taking either of my kids yet, to go and see it. Here's my overall, and I'll try to simplify this as much as possible. That the criticisms that I have. Let me start with the positive. I liked Gal Gadot as, if that's how you pronounce her name, as Wonder Woman. I really did. I thought she. A lot of people said she stole the movie. I don't know if I'd go as far as that, but I did enjoy her. I think that I'm looking forward to the Wonder Woman solo film. I did like Ben Affleck's Batman. I thought he was pretty good. I thought his Bruce Wayne was pretty good too. I am not a fan of the dark Superman though. Superman was brooding and was like conflicted, and that worked a little bit for Man of Steel because it humanized him, and we were like, oh, he's not just like, I've got everything going for me guy. But in this movie, when you have Batman, who like is the epitome of the brooding character, and you have Superman, who's also, dark and brooding and, struggling with things, it just was too much. And if you read the Batman Superman comics, what's great about those, and I'm a pretty big fan of those, is that they balance each other out nicely, with Superman being, optimistic and seeing the hope and everything and seeing the good in everyone and that kind of thing, whereas Batman is the realist, the pragmatist, the person who is somewhat of a pessimist, that doubts, that uses fear and all that stuff, and they balance each other nicely, and you don't have that in this film. The other thing, aside from ridiculous plot things that don't make any sense and that were terrible, and also to skim briefly over the fact that I hated Lex Luthor in this movie, could not stand him, but it seemed like Snyder was trying to fit too much into one movie, and I feel like he made this movie and then said, you know what, when Justice League comes out, everybody will look back at this movie and say, oh, that was so cool when they did that. And I'm like, yeah, but we have to wait till that movie comes out before we can appreciate this movie? What does that say? Maybe the director's cut will have some stuff in there that fleshes it out more and makes it more of a cohesive piece, but I was confused, and I know a lot about Batman comics. I can't imagine somebody who they've only seen the movies going in and seeing that and what they might have thought, because they had to be completely lost at times. So that's that. We should move on.
Okay.
But speaking of DC Comics, Rebirth coming up. Give me your opinion. What's your thought about that? What have you heard? What do you feel?
Well, on Reddit this past weekend, I got a frantic text message from Brandon. He's like, oh my God, details have spilled. It's on Reddit. And I'm like, okay.
Really?
Oh, whatever. And I guess this is all from the mind of Jeff Johns, which is good and bad because it kind of scares me. I love Jeff Johns. I think his writing's been phenomenal. What he did for Aquaman and the New 52 was amazing, because Aquaman has always been a joke. And he's also now basically executive producer over everything that's DC when it comes to Warner Brothers, which is cool. But this idea, I'm like, I don't know. When the Watchmen prequels came out a couple years ago, I think this is what we're getting to. And I did not read them, so I don't know much about this. I'm only going off of what I heard. They had Dr. Manhattan. I don't know exactly where he was, the moon, somewhere. And he was sort of pondering life. And from what I understand, he created the New 52
Hmm.
to sort of make a better place than what the world was that they had.
Hmm.
And so the New 52 is essentially a creation, figment of his imagination. It's Dr. Manhattan's world. And now with Rebirth, from what I understand, they're taking that back and undoing it.
Hmm.
Now, I know in the real world, they're going back to the original numbering and doing that sort of thing. For the characters, though, I'm not exactly sure what that means, because there's been a lot of different speculation. Some of them were saying, well, some of the characters will go back to what they were before the New 52. Some of the characters will continue with what they were in the New 52. I think specifically that was going to be Batman, but now that Scott Snyder's not with that Batman, I don't know if that's true or not. So there's a lot of still speculation as it comes out tonight, Tuesday night, midnight. But yeah, the idea is that it's basically all the New 52 was all created by Dr. Manhattan because of the events that he was not happy with.
Interesting. Two thoughts. One, here we go again, right? I mean, like, how many times, and Marvel's really kind of worse in that regard. But on the other side of that coin, though, is one thing I've always complained about with comic books is the idea of continuity, and that you tell a story and you're telling it over decades and decades and decades and decades, then you eventually run out of stories to tell, or you have things that conflict and blah blah blah. That I think, when you have a story arc and then you can stop and then you can have another story arc, there's something that you have a little bit more freedom. You can tell more interesting stories. You don't feel like you have to have all these crossover events and all that kind of crazy stuff. So I kind of like it, but like we've said in the past, it's really more to sell books than anything else. It seems it's more of a publicity type of, reboot. Let's get more readers involved in checking this out and seeing, jumping on with Batman again. Now, you said that they're starting with the numbers that they left off. Does that mean that, like, Detective Comics is going to start in the 600s or whatever again, or?
That was
really
my understanding. That was an earlier rumor.
Okay.
When they first announced Rebirth. Some of the things had changed because originally when they announced Rebirth, there were a couple pairings on titles that sounded amazing, and those did not come true. I can't remember off the top of my head, but those rumors didn't come true. So not everything is what originally was stated, but I believe that's what they were doing. They were going back to the original numbering.
That's interesting.
Where they left off before New 52.
That's kind of cool because I know when New 52 came out, some of us were kind of bummed, the old school, because you had Action Comics and Detective Comics, in the hundreds of hundreds. I don't even remember what the number was that they were leaving off at, but to see that, that number kind of keep going up is kind of fun and kind of interesting. So I don't know. I'll wait. Let's see how this plays out. I know a lot of people really disliked the New 52. For whatever multiple reasons. I know most of what I saw from the people that I communicate with on social media, a lot of it was negative whenever they mentioned the New 52. So I don't know.
I personally enjoy the New 52. I just get tired of all the whiny fanboys who are complaining about it. And I think DC took that and now they're undoing it. And it's like, listen to the fans. So it became, well, eventually they're going to do it. Eventually, because Future's End, when they did weekly, that was supposed to be the end of the New 52 when that ran out. And it's like, okay, obviously he's going to have it at some point, so I can't get too vested in this world. That's what I didn't like about it. Otherwise, I thought Aquaman was great. I thought Justice League was great. I thought Batman was phenomenal with Scott Snyder. Early on, Animal Man and Swamp Thing were great. I think those both got canceled. But there are a lot of good things that came out of the New 52.
Yeah, I think you know, anytime, and I'm sure in the Rebirth there'll be a lot of really cool things that come out of that. And as you know, as long as they don't screw Batman up, they're gonna be fine, because that's where, you know, Batman and Superman are their most recognizable characters, and they always, you know, are the top sellers in books. It seems like it's the other characters that they typically kind of goof up. I'm sure they'll keep Suicide Squad fairly New 52-ish if they're rebooting that, because of the film that's coming out, which I'm actually pretty excited about. But yeah, looks good. I'm excited about the soundtrack in and of itself. I've loved the last two previews with the sound underneath it. It's been awesome. Well, let's talk about maybe some recommendations. We haven't done these in a while. We usually give a family style one, and then one that we said was for the nerd cave, you know, the one that's adult oriented, definitely not for kids. So do you have one of either, which or a preference as to where we should start at least, or what do you think?
I do have a kids recommendation, mainly because it happened this past weekend. Currently on Stars, where we watch pretty much everything on demand here, but on Stars, they currently have the Karate Kid trilogy. So all the ones that are Danielson. And I was like, you know what? Okay, we're family movie night. I'm not sure what we watched this week. Let's give this a go. My kids reacted exactly the way I reacted after watching the first time. TV goes off, does the crane. They're going over on the side doing karate moves, trying to mimic what Danielson did. And I'm like, awesome. 1984, and my kids are doing the same exact thing that I was doing as a kid. It was great to see. And it's my daughter. My daughter's the one that's still doing it around the house like 5 days later. It's like, okay, cool. Very cool.
You're the best around. I love that.
That's what started it, because every night I try and show my daughter a new, just a video, music video. And that one was in my head for some reason. Somebody probably played it somewhere. And I'm like, oh, okay. I punched it up, and the real video came up. I'm like, no, let's watch the Karate Kid video. So we watched the Karate Kid video with the song, and Madison was just enamored. She wanted to know more. I'm like, all right, well, let's watch the movie, and she loved it.
It's a good 80s movie. I mean, it really is. I remember one of the first really cool pajamas I got were like Karate Kid pajamas that were the, you know, well, I don't know what you call those things that they wear in karate. I wish I knew the terminology. Well,
that's funny. Watching it, I was like, this might be the perfect example of an 80s movie. It's really good. It's got, I don't know, the soundtrack is amazing, and there's so many montages. And I'm like, this might be it. This might be it.
That is true. There are so many montages. I like that. Yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorites from a kid, and I think the remake didn't even come close to living up to it. Surprise, surprise. But yeah, well, that's awesome. For us, I would say that, gosh, I'm trying to think of a family one. What have we watched recently as a family? You know what we watched that was sort of like completely out of season, and I really don't even know why we watched it, but it was The Corpse Bride. We watched that. I don't know if it was that it showed up on Netflix. I think that must have been it must have been like a recommendation or something on Netflix. And we were like, you know what? Let's watch this. And I don't think I had seen it since I had seen it in the theaters. And so it was kind of cool to rewatch it. I don't know if it was Tim Burton that did that film, or if it was like some of the same claymation people that did The Nightmare Before Christmas. So I'll have to look that up and see. But the voice acting was phenomenal. Johnny Depp was one of the main characters, was the main character, and the story was fun. And what I really liked about it was, and I had forgotten this, was that the mortal world is all kind of in grays and blues, and it's really dull and stuff. And then when he goes to the land of the dead, it's these bright, vibrant, you know, colors, and things are glowing, and you have all of these ghouls and stuff, but they're completely happy and content. And it's a real odd, strange story, but it really, you know, worked. It kept you engaged. And then the art was just phenomenal too. the claymation was fantastic. So it was one that kind of was a sleeper. I felt, but it did have a bit of a cult following. I did see a corpse bride at the Motor City Comic Con, actually. That was a pretty cool costume. So it might be a nice recommendation, probably closer to around Halloween or whatever, but was one that we certainly enjoyed.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. How about your adult recommendation?
My adult recommendation would be, I just read the first graphic novel version, the collection of the first 4 or 5 issues of Rat Queens. Loved it. Just loved it. I heard a rumor that it actually got picked up by somebody and they're going to make it into a television series. But it's an Image comic, which, they're writing some of the greatest stories out there. And it's set in like a fantasy world, like Middle Earth style, goblins and trolls and things like that. And basically the Rat Queens are one of various groups of characters that are like mercenaries for hire. You can hire them and they'll do whatever you need them to do. Could be like cleaning out like these really gross stables, or going and killing somebody, or finding some sort of treasure or whatever. They'll go on these quests and you pay them to go. And they are the sort of traditional, like you have a dwarf and you have a wizard and you have, all those things that are like in the role-playing game. So it plays to that audience as well. But the Rat Queens is completely female, and they're awesome. Like, their characters are phenomenal. It's very raunchy and bawdy, but in a way that is not objectifying of women, which I found kind of, fun. And you have these very lively, powerful, and relatable characters that are a lot of fun, and you root for them like right from the start. And it's action packed. It moves along. It was fantastic, and I'm looking forward to getting more issues. The only downside to it is apparently they are not very good. Whoever and I apologize, I don't have the creators right in front of me. They are not very good about getting stuff off on a monthly basis. So you go quite a ways before the next issue comes out. The good news on that is that they're only on like issue number 18, and I guess it's been out for a few years now. So you can catch up really quickly if you want to, jump on board before it really goes crazy, because you know how it goes when things get picked up.
We actually have done several interviews with the creator, Curtis Weave.
Oh, fantastic.
He's a really nice guy. Of course, because he's from Canada. They're all nice up there.
Right?
He did Peter Panzerfest, or Peter Panzerfaust, which we did several reviews for, and Grim Leaper, which I thought was a great book. I think that got canceled though, but a great book. He's done Intrepids, which I also enjoyed, and worked on Green Wake. So he's just amazing. I really like him.
That's fantastic. That's great. I'll have to, like I said, I read, it was actually on a road trip to Chicago that I had gotten it for, and just read it on there and just really, really enjoyed it. But it is definitely adult, oriented with language and everything else in there, and the content. But it is a lot of fun,
Very cool.
How about you? What's an adult recommendation that you might have?
Well, we've talked about it before, and it's going to be this guy. I love Deadpool, and Deadpool now out on video, which is a side thing. People are getting all excited. Oh, my God, it's today. It's on Blu-ray. Go get it. I'm like, go get digital download. I've had it for like 2 weeks. I don't know what you guys are talking about. But I love Deadpool. I've seen it I don't know how many times since it came out. It gets better every time. The jokes are hilarious. Catch new jokes all the time. Story is phenomenal. Bad guy Ajax. I actually thought Ajax was kind of not awesome the first time I saw it in the theaters. No, love it. Ajax is great. The sidekicks, Negasonic and Colossus are great. I love Blind Al. She's phenomenal. But I will tell a huge parenting fail is I was last night coaching my son's soccer team. I was filling in, And there weren't that many kids there. One of the kids runs up and is like, say, James is 10. He's on a little older, but this kid was 8. And he's like, yeah, my mom let me watch Deadpool. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Well, she turned it off when he got into the bar and he ordered the drink. He didn't say drink. He said the actual name of the drink, which is a job.
Yeah.
Figure it out. And I look at him and I go, and he goes, I don't even know what that is. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell you. You need to go talk to your mom.
Oh,
like,
my gosh.
She's so lucky she turned it off there because that's nothing. That's nothing compared to what's coming next. So I was floored. But if you are an adult, you have got to see Deadpool. It is amazing. I think it's one of the best comic book movies ever made that translates for what the character is into a movie. I'm not saying it's the best comic book movie. I'm saying it's a great representation of what Deadpool is in the comic books to what he is in the movie. I think it's perfect.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. In fact, I did download that digitally too and had it ahead of time. And I've only watched it once since because, you know, my wife hates it. Well, I don't know. She powered through it when we went, but that is definitely not her style. She's not a fan of that kind of like crude.
Love story? She doesn't like love stories?
That was a love story. Yeah. Yeah.
That's another part that I love when he gets. I thought it was a superhero movie and I'm shish kebabbing some guy. And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is cool. I just love all the self-references. Now every time in every other movie when someone does a superhero landing, I think of Deadpool going superhero landing. Like it happened in the Civil War movie. I was watching a trailer for X-Men, which comes out this weekend, and saw somebody do the superhero landing, and it just pops right in my head. Superhero landing.
Perfect. It's really hard on the knees though.
Oh yeah, it's gotta be. It's gotta be. And let's take a moment for Colossus too, right? Like the perfect straight man for that movie. I mean, he really just played it nicely. So
I will still contend that was written to be Cable. And
I'm sure it probably was.
Fox wasn't going to give up Cable, so they went with Colossus. But you're right. Colossus was a great film.
Well, and I guess he's supposed to be, according to the stingers at the end, Cable's supposed to be in the next one. So
I'd love that. Love that. So what? Anything else we got?
I think that's it, man. I think we've covered quite a bit. I think we should we've got some stuff coming up that's going to be exciting. I'm sure by the time we get together again, X-Men Apocalypse will have come out. Suicide Squad's coming up pretty shortly too, I think. So I'm definitely excited about both of those films that should be here pretty shortly.
Busy summer. Cool. Well, don't forget to check us out on Nerd Locker, the YouTube, the Facebook, the Twitter, and the website, everything. Just check us out. Take us out, Jason.
Have a nerdy week, everybody.